Well, it's February 1st, and you know that means we have some pretty big stuff going on. We have, obviously, the investors meeting coming up here this week and supposedly a partners showcase. And look, maybe some of what we talk about today has to do with that, but honestly, we are in the month of February, and what a lot of you want to know about is a couple of things. One, when is the next big general Nintendo Direct? And we do have some rumors fresh off the press here for you for that. Well, we've been talking about it a bit. We hinted at it last video. But more than that, what is Nintendo's big game going to be for this year? Well, you've seen the title or the thumbnail or whatever, and it's at least a suggestion at what it's going to be. I doubt it's going to be like a Galaxy 3, but 3D Mario plays a massive role, apparently, supposedly. We are being told this for 2026, and I think that you think about Fire Emblem, you think about possibly Pokemon Gen 10 being revealed this month, you start to paint a pretty picture here, and guess what? Not just 3D Mario is being rumored for the next big General Direct. How about a new game from Monolith Soft? Oh boy, we have a lot to get into today, including some news, but before we do, I want to remind you we are on our road to 200,000 subscribers, and look, it all starts by getting to 162. We like to celebrate every 1,000 subscribers here at the channel. And as I said, we will be getting some new giveaways going at some point here. We're just kind of waiting, obviously, for directs to happen and all of that before we make a final decision on what we're going to give away. I decided not to do Mario Tennis because it comes out pretty, like, what, a couple weeks from now. I want to do something that's a little bit further out. So that being said, I had to wear my Super Mario sweatshirt today because bottom line is we're going to be talking a lot about Mario. But before we do, let's dive into some other news stories. And first off, we have a couple of games that are leaking for Switch and Switch 2 coming from the ESRB. So this first one here is going to be Blaze Blue Entropy Effect X. You can obviously see over here that the platforms for it here are listed as PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and Switch 2. It says Blaze Blue Entropy X is rated T for teen by the ESRB with blood, fantasy, violence, and suggestive themes. This is an action-adventure game in which players help a group of scientists obtain a mysterious element by diving into different realities. Players traverse 2D side-scrolling levels to battle enemy ninjas, armored soldiers, and large enemy creatures. Players use swords, guns, spears, and lasers to kill enemies in a fast-paced melee-style combat. Battles are highlighted by sword-slashing effects, large explosions, and splashes of red blood. Some sequences depict female characters with deep cleavage and jiggling breasts. Reading the ESRB at times, like, oh, we got some jiggling breasts over here. Anyways, that's not the only game leaked by the ESRB today. I wanted to make sure that we went over another one as well. This one might get you guys excited. We have, I want to give credit to Necrofelipe because this is where I first saw it here, but it is on the website. The Binding of Isaac Repentance, and you can see the platform is Switch 2. So that's really cool. Obviously not a lot of information in this post, but it doesn't really matter. Bottom line is both of those games seem to be coming to Switch and Switch 2. Binding of Isaac Repentance Plus just for Switch 2. That's really cool. And obviously these games have not been like officially announced. We have no additional information on that. But what we do have additional information on are the Japanese software sales and hardware sales for the entirety of 2025. The charts are in, and we're not going to go over everything because as you'll see here, there's 100 software titles. We could be here all day reminiscing on them all. But I figure we'll go over like the top 10 for the year, and then we'll dive into the hardware sales. So for the software side, we see Mario Kart World was actually the #1 seller last year, moving 2,668,381. Then you see Pokemon Legends ZA for Switch, moving 1,529,823. Then you see Pokemon Legends ZA for Switch 2, moving 1,004,154 copies. Then you see Monster Hunter Wilds on PlayStation 5 coming in here at #4, moving 838,319 units. Then Super Mario Party Jamboree for Switch, moving 498,397 units. Then you see another Switch 2 game in Donkey Kong Bonanza, an exclusive at #6, going at 435,206 units. Then you see Kirby Air Riders coming in at #7, moving 424,837. At #8, we see the Minecraft version for Switch, moving 346,606. At 9, we see Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, still doing some numbers here, 342,866 units. And then we see, well, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD Remake for Nintendo Switch. Switch. That one moving 316,439 units. And look, the list is all here. We'll link to it down below if you want to go over the entire top 100. Maybe something we can go over on a live stream, but just it's a little too in depth. This is almost a whole video for me to go over everything. But I want to get to the hardware numbers. And Switch 2 was actually the #1 hardware seller last year, moving 3,784,067 units in Japan. And then Switch 1 coming in at #2, moving 1,520,384 units. PlayStation 5 moving 897,204 units. Xbox Series moving 31,226. And yes, even the PlayStation 4 moved over 1,000 units last year, moving 1,087 units. So really cool to see all the numbers gathered together. Credit to Perfectly Nintendo for compiling it. Go Nintendo for sharing it. It's always nice to see that. And you know what's really interesting? Because look, as much as it's exciting to consider Mario Tennis Fever is coming soon, and there should be previews dropping, maybe even as soon as this week. What's also dropping this month in February is Virtual Boy. And for now, Nintendo is saying you need to use the accessories they sell, one of 2 different accessories, to even play Virtual Boy on Switch 2. And if you were hoping to maybe pick up those accessories around the launch or still debating on picking them up, well, they're sold out. So obviously we see the full-on, Virtual Boy item here, kind of the replica of the original Virtual Boy that you can use with your Switch 2 to play. Yeah, it's sold out, obviously, but the thing is, it doesn't stop there because Nintendo made a cardboard version, and that one is also sold out. So, yeah. Look, Nintendo kind of knows what it's doing here. I know some people thought maybe, the $100 one especially being a little too expensive, but bottom line is Nintendo knows what they're doing. They know people want this stuff. Regardless of how niche Virtual Boy might be, people like having parts of Nintendo history, a part of Nintendo history most gamers never got to participate in. It is, the Virtual Boy stuff itself is part of the expansion pack on Nintendo Switch 2, but, hopefully, people are kind of assuming we'll be able to play the games even without the accessories, regardless of what Nintendo says. But we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully there's nothing they did to it that just magically makes it not work on just a flat screen in front of you. All right, next up, we got to talk about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is a game I actually expect to see at the Partner Showcase. And this piece of news is why. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth director gives status update on Switch 2 version, hopes to share more info in the very near future. So here's what they said. At this point, we've gotten the game built. Our engineers are working hard to optimize and provide the final polish on the build. That's right, they're in the final polishing stages. I'm hoping that we'll be able to provide more information on Rebirth in the very near future. Compared to the first title, the world map is a lot larger, so there's no doubt that it's more challenging in the production process. But our engineers are very passionate about the work they're doing, so I'm confident that we'll be able to deliver. This comes from the director, Naoki Hamaguchi. And look, guys, that is the saying there. Like, they're in the final polishing stages. This is a game coming out this year. It's coming out this year. I think it's going to come out this summer, but regardless, Rebirth is coming out this year. And stuff like this is the exact reason why. It's in the final polishing stages. When you hear games in the final polishing stages, I'm hearing, Partner Showcase this week? Yeah, Rebirth obviously must be there. And I do think Part 3, which is the brand new one that nobody has, is coming out next year. They haven't confirmed that or anything. It's just kind of a gut feeling on why they're trying to get Rebirth out the same year as they got Remake Integrate out on Switch 2, because, again, they're trying to get day and date for everything with the Part 3. All right, next up, we got to go over some discourse that's been going on with a game called Dispatch, an indie game on Nintendo Switch 2 and Switch. And here's the thing. Dispatch is a game that features quite a bit of nudity and other, I don't want to say grotesque or obscene things, but just mature adult themes. And it's uncensored on every single platform, unless you live in Japan. Japan has certain laws, of course, that make it so you have to censor. And Dispatch is actually fully censored on Nintendo platforms. They censored everything. Even things like the middle finger are censored. It's very weird, the level of censorship going on. And it's been kind of interesting watching the back and forth here. Like Dispatch, the ad hoc studio kind of blaming Nintendo saying, hey, we didn't make them change anything. They just have to abide by some basic guidelines. And then other people pointing out that, hey, there's only one version of the game on the Nintendo platforms, whereas there's 2 versions of the game on all the other platforms. And other people pointing out that, hey, the Nintendo Switch 2 version of the game launched the same day as the censored versions did for the other platforms in Japan. So they kind of launched all the censored versions at the same time, but then never offered an uncensored version. And by the way, never told customers that it was even going to be censored outside of Japan. And then they kind of maybe told you, but it was buried way far down the page, not at the top. Kind of a wild thing, and it sort of feels like there's probably some blame to go around for everyone, but I want to read off what the Dispatch devs actually said, and we'll go over a little bit of what Nintendo said, and you guys can kind of decide what the hell's going on here, because look, bottom line is, I don't need my cartoon boobies and cocks and all of that to enjoy video games. Okay, I don't really play video games for that kind of stuff. I have a good woman, but you know, it doesn't mean that I am cool with censorship, and it is a highly rated game. People seem to just really enjoy it for the game itself, and some of the stuff actually might be integral to the story and the narrative building around certain characters. So let's go ahead and get into this. So Dispatch devs thought the game could come to Switch 2 uncensored, but Nintendo's content guidelines prevented it. Again, this is on the Dispatch devs side of things, and they posted this on their Discord, but we're going to read it here. It says, okay, let's talk the Switch release. We've been quiet for the last few days, not because we don't want to address this stuff, but because we've been trying to make sure we're being good partners with Nintendo. They've made their own statement regarding the issue. Nintendo requires all games on its platforms to receive ratings from independent organizations and meet our established content and platform guidelines. While we inform partners when their titles don't meet our guidelines, Nintendo does not make changes to partner content. We also do not discuss specific content or criteria used in making these determinations. So, in other words, what Nintendo is basically saying is, hey, they submitted their game, and Nintendo was like, hey, this doesn't really meet our content guidelines. Here's our content guidelines, and we don't tell you any specifics about what you're violating. We just kind of give you a general, hey, please work on the game. Please look at our guidelines, resubmit it. So Nintendo never gave them particulars on what needed to be censored. And the Dispatch devs decided on their own that we're just going to censor everything. And part of that might have just been because they didn't know what they needed to censor. Also, they never possibly considered that, hey, maybe you should talk to Nintendo in general, because maybe there can be an uncensored version of the game. Let's get into what Ad Hoc said here. Now, as Nintendo states, any game that's going to be on the Nintendo platform needs to meet Nintendo's established content and platform guidelines. This is the key point. Nintendo has content guidelines. Our game didn't meet those guidelines. So we made changes that would allow us to release on their platform. That's what happened here. Honestly, we thought this would be obvious since we're the devs that released a fully uncensored version of the game on other platforms. We initially assumed, like some of you, that because games like Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk are on the platform with similar types of uncensored content, Dispatch would be allowed to do the same. And I want to note, while Cyberpunk and Witcher 3 from CD Projekt Red are uncensored, they have two versions of the game on the eShop. There's the Japanese version, which is required by law to be censored. So if you're wondering, all like nudity and all this has to be censored in Japan. It's literally a law. There's nothing you can do about it. It's the government. They don't like that stuff there. Okay, fine. But there's two versions of the game on platforms, and I don't know if they consider that. Let's get back in here. So we asked that we include a disclaimer on the store page to inform customers that content would be different than on other platforms. We worked with Nintendo to get the storefront language approved. Where we absolutely need to take full ownership is the placement of that disclaimer. Again, it was our intent to go out of our way to tell people looking to buy the game that the content was censored. While we didn't have the complete control of the language, we did have control of the placement. Wires got crossed, and we put the disclaimer in the field literally titled disclaimer. You can kind of see where they're trying to say none of it was our fault. This is the way Nintendo stuff is set up. So even as they're trying to take some blame, it's a little interesting here, pointing fingers at Nintendo while Nintendo points fingers back at them. Anyways, instead of the about game section, we didn't catch this until after the launch when we saw people saying we should have called out the changes on the store page. And we went to go make sure that it was there. It technically has been there the entire time, just in the absolute worst spot that makes it look like we're trying to hide it. This is 100% our mistake, and it was fixed in the America storefront page a few hours after launch to give more visibility. We've also added a disclaimer before purchase. As of writing this, the other regions have either published this change or are in the process of review. To our fans who are looking forward to playing the uncensored version on Switch, we're truly sorry. People have the right to be pissed. Lots of lessons learned here. Thanks for sticking with us. And this is quite interesting because as you get down here, they had one additional statement. This comes from the studio co-founder. He says, we're already working with Nintendo on a path forward. While we can't make any specific promises just yet, we're confident we'll be able to push an update to address at least some of the censored content. I'll get ahead of it now and say that between the dev time and the console submission process, we're talking weeks, not days. So what they're basically saying is, hey, Nintendo, we're now talking to you. You're now telling us, what needs to be censored and what doesn't need to be censored. And so we can actually have a version that has a lot of stuff uncensored. I mean, guys, it got to the point they censored the middle finger, which I don't think violates Nintendo's content policies. You could say F-bombs in games on Nintendo, so I don't know why they would censor that. And there's definitely games of nudity. Hell, there's hentai games with literal, like, adult actions happening in them. So I do find a lot of this to be interesting. I don't really know. I think there's some blame to go around with everyone. But I do think the studio itself, by the way, this is the first game they've ever published on Nintendo. I'm not quite sure, like, what the process was. Like, who did they talk to at Nintendo? And was it Nintendo of Japan telling them, hey, you got to censor stuff, which, yeah, in Japan, you have to by law? Because they dropped it the same day as the censored version for the other systems. I don't know, guys. You'll have to let me know what you think about this down below. It seems like a very complex situation. And I know a lot of people have been getting like refunds and they're pretty pissed about it. Look, guys, I don't care about the nudity stuff, but I know a lot of you guys do. Or if you don't care about that aspect, you at least care about the censorship part of this, which seems needless outside of Japan when laws in other countries allow there to be nudity and all of that in video games. So I don't know, guys. Just let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. Next up, we have some news about YouTube. That's right, YouTube coming to Switch 2. People have been wondering when it's going to happen, and it sounds like it could be happening literally this month. So rumor, YouTube could be launching this month for Switch 2. One of the things that many of you may be asking for is a YouTube app for Switch 2. We've heard time and time again that it's being worked on by the official YouTube X account, but it never materialized. Now a rumor has appeared via a YouTube Discord mod who says Google has been working on a YouTube app for Switch 2 and it's set to release this month. And this Discord mod, who did put out a video on this, has actually had stuff come from them in the past that were like new features and new changes coming to YouTube and turned out to be right. So there's no real reason to doubt this mod, but obviously nothing's been officially announced. I kind of think we're just going to wake up one of these days and boom, YouTube is now available on Switch 2. Don't think they're going to make some big announcement, maybe a tweet about it at most, but yeah, I guess that does mean YouTube's coming over. This obviously brings in the question, hey, Hulu's gone because the Hulu app just literally doesn't exist anywhere anymore because it got merged. Is Nintendo going to allow other streaming platforms, other video platforms to come over like YouTube? And, kind of makes some sense. Nintendo hosts directs on it. And host a whole bunch of trailers and other videos, and obviously content creators that they do support here and there. So it is interesting that they'll allow YouTube. I would like to see them allow other things like, hey, a partnership was just made that's going to get the Zelda movie to actually be on Netflix. Well, Netflix isn't available on Switch or Switch 2. So how about let's get a partnership that gets Netflix coming over to Switch 2 and you guys iron out those details, or Paramount Plus or whatever, right? It would just be nice to see some more streaming stuff come over. Not that I would use it much for that, but I know some people that would. So I don't know, leave it at that. Now, speaking of movies, speaking of TV shows, how about the Super Mario Galaxy movie? Because we're about to see it very, very soon. The Mario Galaxy movie is going to have an ad during the Super Bowl. That's right. Illumination and Nintendo are working hard to spread the word on the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Now we know when we'll see the next bit. If you tune into the Super Bowl on February 8th, you can expect to see a new commercial for the film. No word on when exactly it'll air or be shown, but this is exciting news. Remember, the theatrical release is on April 3rd, so whoop, whoop! Hell yeah, baby. That's what we're talking about. That's what we want to see. Now we got to do the last bit of this video. This is probably the most exciting part of the video. It's why you're here. It's why you clicked. We're talking about rumors. Now, if you guys remember our very, very last video, we talked about how there is going to be a partner showcase, right? And then a general Nintendo Direct happening shortly after, according to Nash, Weedle, and Attack the Backlog. Now, was saying back then that, hey, if we're going to put a lot of faith in Nash Weedle here, this is kind of a make or break moment. And honestly, he just added to the make or break moment, although he gave us a bit of a timeline now for when to expect that general Direct. It is actually possible that it's this month. It might be March, but there's an additional addendum to this that's actually extremely exciting because we now know what the big game for this year is, at least according to Nash Weedle. So he's putting a lot out here, and this is because he did an interview / podcast with Attack the Backlog. They went over all this stuff today. I was listening to it live. You guys should go check it out. There's a lot more in there than just what I'm saying right now, especially if you speak Spanish. I'll link it down below, but I have all the pertinent details we're going to go over here. And so let's just start with what Attack the Backlog knows, which isn't a whole lot. He just knows that there is something after the partner showcase. but he wasn't told when it's going to be. That's all it's at the backlog knows is there's something coming, but his source wouldn't reveal much, and there's a reason for that. So first off, let's get to what Nash Weedle said. So before we get to the big part, he has been told that there's going to be a Monolith Soft project that will appear in the next general Nintendo Direct. Monolith Soft project. So you're thinking Xenoblade, you're thinking, you know, maybe that new IP or something else. Something from Monolith Soft is going to be in the next thing. All right, that's cool. That's already exciting. You know, Monolith Soft makes kind of visual showcase games, if we're completely honest. So if you've been waiting for a visual feast showcase game for Switch 2, the next general Direct might be the one that does it here. But here's the even bigger news. In that Direct, and for 2026, the big game for this year from Nintendo, first party, is the next 3D Mario. Fully believes it's going to be in that general Direct because if it's coming out this year, it makes a whole lot of sense to announce it. But holy crap, 3D Mario, baby. Are you kidding me? That's why we're wearing the Mario sweatshirt, guys. Holy crap, 3D Mario. I mean, look at this. Look at this cool little stuff. By the way, you might be able to find this at your local Walmart. That's where I found it. It's actually, oh, dropped it. There's a sticker, but it's actually official Nintendo merch. Look, guys, 3D Mario is what a lot of us have been waiting for. Yes, if he's right, that means I'm wrong about my guess, my estimation that it's still in development and is years away. I would love for it to come out this year. It is the 40th anniversary. They're still celebrating that for Mario. He does say the Zelda anniversary stuff's probably going to happen later, summer or was it September or something, which makes a lot of sense. Get clear of the Mario movie. But guys, holy crap, 3D Mario. So again, Nash Weedle, General Direct, going to have a Monolith Soft game, and 3D Mario is the big title from Nintendo this year, the big system seller. And obviously we know Gen 10 Pokemon's getting announced. So you can start to see how this lines up for Nintendo. I would assume the 3D Mario game would be their big holiday title, but maybe it comes out sooner. Maybe it's October. They did do Odyssey in October, so maybe we're looking at October. Either way, we obviously just want to see the game, and that's the question. When are we going to see this General Direct that he teased? Again, these are all rumors, so get your skepticism hat on, but here's what he said. A couple sources that he has says the General Direct will happen in the third week of February. He also has a couple sources that mention March. One of them mentioned Mario Day, but nobody else is saying Mario Day, so he has like almost no faith in the Mario Day source. That said, he was asked at one point during the show, hey, which sources are more reliable for you? Which ones do you think are more correct? And he's like, yeah, the third week of February. Those are the ones that have had stuff right in the past. So just kind of throwing it out there. That would be huge. Think about this for a moment. Partner Showcase this week. Mario Tennis next week. The same week as Virtual Boy. Boom, General Direct. We see 3D Mario. We see Monolith Soft big game. Boom, following week we see Gen 10 Pokemon. Now that is a freaking February to remember. But even if the General Direct slips into March, and it's in March, still imagine this. Partner Showcase, bunch of big games, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and so much other stuff. Oh my gosh. And then we get to Mario Tennis, and then we get to Virtual Boy, and then we get to Pokemon Gen 10, and then in March, we get to 3D Mario and Monolith Soft. Either way, by the end of this current fiscal year, the excitement levels for Switch 2 are likely going to be through the damn roof. This is exactly what Nintendo needed to do heading into their second full fiscal year, which begins in April. They needed to have all of this happen before then. And while it might not happen when you want it to, right? We all want it to be next week. Some people would argue you should flip the General and the Partner Direct, do the Partner Direct after the General. I get that, but they're trying to let third parties shine. There's probably some games in the Partner Direct coming out before the General Direct. So whatever. Point is, it seems like Nintendo is about to bring the goods. Now, again, rumors. Now, there's some other stuff he has in here as well as you listen to the show, and there might be more stuff. I didn't quite get everything, but here's some other stuff he said. Kingdom Hearts games are going to be coming to Switch 2 natively. But he doesn't know when they're going to be revealed. There's an anniversary coming up. There's a partner showcase coming up. There's a General Direct. He doesn't know if it's going to be any of those events, but he has heard that Kingdom Hearts is coming natively to Switch 2. That's really exciting. He's also hearing some rumblings on a Pikmin 4 Switch 2 edition and a Yoshi Crafted World Switch 2 edition. Find that one a little interesting considering there's a new Yoshi game coming out. I would suspect there'll probably be a gap between those. So Yoshi, the new game early, the Switch 2 edition later. I don't know. We'll see if that's even for this year. He didn't really clarify if it's for this year. And he did say something that he expects in next week's partner showcase, and that is the Raymond 30th anniversary collection. He knows it's real, he knows it exists, and he fully believes it's at the partner showcase this week. So we'll have to wait and see. And as I said, the big shots for him are the Monolith soft game, the 3D Mario, and the General Direct. Guys, Nash Weedle's putting it out there. And I said last video that this is basically a gut check for Nash Weedle as an industry insider. He's gotten a bunch of stuff right last year and has built up a bit of a reputation, which is why we're paying attention. But he's the only one at the moment saying General Direct is happening after the partner showcase, but before the end of March, and that it's going to have 3D Mario. He is the de facto source on this. So he is really sticking his neck out there. And I did say, if he's wrong, if there's no General Direct by the end of March, I originally said February, but now that he provided the timetable, we can expand it a little bit. But if there's no General Direct by the end of March, if there is literally no 3D Mario in it or no Monolith soft game, well, that's going to be it. We're never going to cover Nash Weedle again. And that would suck. And I happen to think Nash Weedle does have some connections. So this is probably happening. This is probably true from my estimation, because I do think Nash Weedle has real sources. But I know a lot of you guys are skeptical of him, and I completely understand. And as I said, my promise to you is if he bombs on this, because these are some big shots he's taken, we'll be done. We're good. We won't cover him anymore. That said, I trust Attack the Backlog. I trust his judgment. He's a friend of mine. He's been right about everything he's ever put out there as well. He doesn't put a lot out there, but he hasn't heard about the 3D Mario. He hasn't heard about the General Direct. He just knows there's something coming from Nintendo after the partner showcase. That's really all he's been told, but not what that something is. Nash Weedle is, I guess, the one providing what that something is. But again, Attack the Backlog hasn't heard anything, so this won't really affect his reputation. This is definitely Nash Weedle sticking his neck out there for all of this big stuff. So you guys let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. I am Nathaniel RoboJants from Nintendo Prime. What a great start to our February. Man, I am just stupidly exciting. Now, one thing I just want to address here at the end, there were some people, a number of you, rightfully calling me out. And I say rightfully calling me out because it is something that I did commit to and have gone back on. And that is using the word leak instead of rumor. Rumor and leak, right? I know they're different things. I know they mean different things. And honestly, I was pretty committed to it for most of last year after the beat 'em up situation. And it turned out that it actually was just hurting viewership, but not just hurting viewership. It was leading to just everyone else blowing up and getting significantly more attention for their videos than mine. And then when you watch some of those videos, they're not even giving you the full context of the rumors. And without that full context, you're kind of being misinformed a little bit. And I'm not going to call anyone in particular, but the point is that if people are going to get information from a video that says leak that's really a rumor, I'd rather it be mine where I give the full context and link to where things came from and make it really easy for people to double check and verify everything. So it's one of those things that there's that. Obviously, it does get more views. And I actually already talked about this last year. People just missed it. That I said I decided to go back against it because also, look, truth is I have mouths to feed. I got medical bills coming in for my son. I have a whole family that relies on me, and this is what I do for a living. And sometimes you have to make business decisions ahead of, where your head is. Like, I would love to just use the word rumor and have it work every time, but it doesn't. That's reality. I'm sorry. I know some of you guys will just feel straight up lied to, and that was never my intent. And you can continue to call me a liar if you feel like it. There's nothing I can do but soldier on. So catch you guys in the next video.